Welcome everyone, thank you for tuning in. This is the MSV podcast. Here we talk about crypto. My name is Sabi, I am your host today. Let's start. Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in for another episode of the MSV podcast. Today, hopefully we will learn a bit more about DeFi and decentralized finance. Please welcome my guest today, Chen from Injective. Hi Eric, thank you very much for being here. How are you doing?
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So first of all, usually we start with some introductions. So if you could give us some background about yourself and about your project, your team, that would be much appreciated.
Hey, this is Eric, co-founder and CEO of Injective Labs. So previously, I was working as a researcher in cryptography and also worked at a fund specifically focusing on building up market-neutral trading strategies. And after co-founding Injective Labs, so Injective Labs is the core contributor to Injective and also built a Helix app and some of the application on top of Injective.
Okay, thank you very much. You were formerly named Injective Protocol, and I read that you are a protocol where projects can build on. Could we discuss about that a bit? Could you tell us a bit more about that, how this works?
Yeah, sure. So giving you like a high-level overview of Injective. Injective is kind of like this first sector-specific layer one blockchain built for finance and specifically DeFi. So it's built on top of Cosmos SDK and highly interoperable through IPC. It's also uniquely interoperable with Ethereum with its own custom bridge and interoperable with Solana, Aptos, Polygon, Avalanche, and more through actually a very, very recent wormhole integration. So it provides several very powerful core financial infrastructure primitives that applications can leverage. That includes a fully decentralized, MEV-resistant on-chain order book. And on top of that, all forms of financial markets such as spot, perpetual, and futures and options are fully on-chain, including their order book. And it also enables decentralized cross-chain bridging infrastructure that is compatible with Ethereum, IBC-enabled blockchains, and non-EVM chains. And it also has, a next-generation, highly composable smart contract platform based on Cosmosm with advanced interchain capabilities and a custom feature which includes self-executing smart contracts. It's custom built with the Cosmos SDK and utilizes Tendermint consensus, providing instant finality and the ability to sustain lightning-fast performance of 25,000 plus TPS. So overall, Injective as an ecosystem is trying to democratize finance through decentralization and creating this fully decentralized and fully on-chain financial stack that is trustless, non-custodial, and fully secure and scalable.
Okay, thank you very much. It was very nice. Okay, so I heard Cosmos, I heard Ethereum here. That means that you are building this layer one for a cross-chain operation, correct? We will get to that in just a second. Before that, I wanted to ask what kind of projects you are expecting to build on your layer one on Injective.
Yeah, so currently there's really a lot of developers and a lot of projects already deploying and have deployed on top of Injective. Mm-hmm. And, there's more than 100 plus ecosystem participants. And, some of the featured dApps and applications include, Helix, obviously, Frontrunner, which recently raised, 5 million their seed round. And also Dexterium, INJ Dojo, White Whale, etc. All kind of powering different types of applications and different types of DeFi kind of use cases and DeFi primitives that are only possible on top of Injective. So for example, I think there's this application called the QWERTY exchange. And one very, very interesting part and very interesting feature about QWERTY is that they enable traders to kind of place order without having to sign off on every single transaction. And this is, like a feature that's only unique on top of Injective, which enables kind of this centralized, butter smooth user experience. Another really interesting one would be Frontrunner, which is kind of a sports betting platform utilizing an order book. And it's currently, the only projects that can do this in a fully on-chain way and a fully decentralized way, which allows for, prediction markets and binary options to be enforced and settled fully on-chain in a highly capital efficient way. And a lot of exciting projects that are also coming on includes, Project X, which enables kind of on-chain strategy and on-chain market making, close to the level of high frequency trading firms, and creating, and democratizing these access of highly sophisticated strategies to the general public for first time ever.
Okay, thank you very much. I hear some very interesting projects. I think what I understand here is that most of them are in the finance. Now, let's go back a bit to Cosmos and Ethereum, because this is already cross-chain. And I think I just started to hear, maybe in the last couple of months, projects trying to implement cross-chain projects, let's say. Is this the future, you think, for layer ones to be able to move projects assets cross-chain? That is why you're focusing on, or how do you see the future regarding this topic?
I think like generally any type of monolithic layer ones and blockchains all have their own approach in terms of how they want to go about acquiring asset liquidity and how they want to um, like the decision that they make when it comes to interacting and interoperating with the multi-chain ecosystem. But for Injective's case, it's a very much of a sector-specific chain that has to be highly focused on interoperability and cross-chain features, because it's a chain that's exclusively built for any type of financial and trading or any type of DeFi-related use cases. And this basically implies that it needs to tap into as much asset liquidity as possible, and thereby has a very, very high focus on interoperability and composability in this multi-chain world. So it's not necessarily applicable for like all the ecosystem out there, but for Injective's case, and the direction it's building towards and the mission it has, I think interoperability and cross-chain capabilities is number one. And obviously, IBC makes it much easier out of box, along with the unique and exclusive wormhole integration and different types of bridging infrastructure, and the innate composable bridging infrastructure built into the chain itself with Ethereum.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that makes sense. Regarding DeFi, I heard you mention DeFi. Some people say that DeFi it's gonna be as it is right now. Some people say that DeFi is just at the beginning, and I think you are one of the best people to ask. What do you think? Do we see a DeFi right now which will have maybe some fine tuning, but not much further big developments, or we are just ahead of I don't know, next big milestones, next big steps for DeFi, which we don't even know maybe what is going to be, or maybe
So obviously for Injective's case, all the developers building on top of Injective are all kind of pursuing a specific feature that was not previously possible due to limitations of DeFi on Ethereum, DeFi on Solana, etc. So for me personally and folks within the Injective ecosystem, all we see is the future potential and the future direction of DeFi, and how it'll blur the line and really remove some of the incumbent advantages that users currently choose CeFi over DeFi for. And certainly, I think right now, Injective ecosystem is growing faster than ever, especially after the collapse of FTX and a lot of custodial and centralized providers. It's never been kind of like a more exciting time for us, despite the current market condition. Yeah. And I would say for us, it's really about looking forward to what the final form of the ecosystem is going to look like, or maybe it's not even the final form. It's just what we can currently imagine, and what these developers are building towards. Because there's a lot of projects that are currently building credit accounts, and the concept of credit account might not necessarily be kind of clear to CeFi users, but I think the best way to imagine it is that with credit account, it enables a very safe and risk isolated way of providing cross margining, portfolio margining, global margining, and in addition to that, borrowing against your portfolio. And this is possible, by only by building on top of Injective, and kind of coupling with some of the core primitive where users can have both very, very safe and secure and risk isolated perpetual markets that are not affected by margining issues in any way, doesn't have any type of contagion risks from a financial perspective, while kind of taking advantage of having a very, very flexible and capital efficient margining infrastructure, and later on potentially enabling options, etc. And I think seeing these developers kind of tackling various problems and really building it out so that in a not so distant future, the offering of exchange app built on top of Injective, maybe even Helix for that case, will be will be extremely hard to distinguish compared to centralized platforms and centralized exchanges offering the most advanced type of margining. And I think this is really the beauty of DeFi, is that for centralized players, it's really just a team of developer scaling linearly, trying to compete in terms of product offering and feature set. But for DeFi, especially in the current market condition where people need to focus on true value prop and sustainable features, it's really built trying to compete against an exponentially growing number of DeFi developers that can immediately access and be composable with each other, and really expanding the product offering and feature offering in almost like a restriction-free way, basically expanding the overall ecosystem and the kind of value props exponentially. And that is something that CeFi will never be able to catch up in a linear fashion.
Okay, well, you are well ahead of me, because when I think about CeFi and DeFi, and obviously the recent events, however unfortunate they I think helped DeFi a lot, and many people will use DeFi for which they use CeFi. I'm talking about exchanging assets, right? I mean, transactioning, maybe just swapping. You are already at the margins. So that is very good to hear that there are developments for the future in these topics as well. And yes, I wouldn't say that CeFi will not exist. I think as more people are coming in, I think the first stop is a centralized exchange, due to I don't know, it's maybe easier to use them first of all, and maybe it's safer for the people who are just learning how to handle the Bitcoin or the crypto. However, I think as DeFi is becoming more and more user friendly and having more and more features which everyday users can use, then I think it's becoming more and more popular. So yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, I certainly agree, especially when it comes to CeFi. Speed is kind of like this inherent advantage that DeFi can't really supersede, because no matter how fast DeFi or injective block time might be, it will never be as fast as a single CPU kind of churning at like
Two numbers, right?
lightning speed and matching everything in microsecond level, right?
Yeah.
And on top of that, CeFi has been extremely dominant in terms of market share, as everyone kind of currently sees. And I think what we're looking forward to is for DeFi to have its place, that's completely defensible, that's completely secured, and not necessarily take over in terms of market share, which might be very, very difficult to do, but rather establish a very, very significant market share or a non-negligible market share, and becoming a premier destination for a specific use case or a specific need. And that's what I'm most excited about.
Very nice. I don't know, as I'm hearing what you're saying and where you think this is going. I don't know, it just came to my mind. For example, people who are trading, there are like many types of trading platforms, right? And there are some very, very user friendly, which might charge more or might offer less information. And there are these old school looking ish UI, but with a lot of information, and it is for the pro traders. I think this is what I'm seeing in the future. I mean, probably we'll have another bull run and another one, and new people will go to the centralized exchanges due to the, I don't know, it's more comfortable maybe. And as people get used to or get to know crypto more and more, about security, about risks, about everything which we endured right now, because I do think that we have a very short memory about these kind of things which happened with FTX. And yeah, as you said, maybe DeFi will not take the whole market share, but I am hoping that it will take a significant part or chunk of the market in terms of users.
Yeah. And another way to think about it is that there could totally be, hybrid ways where every single sector or every single type of like stack can have their own focus. I think what DeFi truly excels at is kind of this composability and uh, this decentralized, unopinionated standard for a certain instrument. And currently, one of the biggest issue within CeFi is kind of like this different standard in terms of perpetual markets and also futures market for specifically digital assets. And this means that per positions on one exchange cannot be transferred over to another exchange. And a very interesting way to do so is that maybe these centralized platforms could be settling into an unopinionated blockchain and create the standard for much better liquidity and capital efficiency for perpetuals that benefits everyone all around. And they can still earn the trading fees, etc. But they basically get to deposit and withdraw derivative positions just like they can with like a token.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. Uh, for someone who doesn't understand, I don't know, in depth, the perpetual and the futures trading, how would this look like?
It's more like, let's say you have a long position on top of Binance. Say it's, long BTC, 20x leverage. And like the liquidity on Binance for perpetual market might not warrant or might not allow you to immediately, kind of withdraw everything all at once. But that being said, you can kind of do this over 500 venues. Let's say, well, unfortunately, FTX is dead, but let's say OKEX or Hobie, and being able to split your position in three different places to withdraw it from Binance and deposit into Hobie or OKEX, and then selling it all together to close out that position. Or maybe yet, you might not even need to close out the position. Someone might be more than willing to buy your perpetual position from you in like a kind of like a off-platform way. And by enabling that composability, it creates much better flow for perpetual markets, where it's not just all contained within one platform, where you have to look for someone who are willing to kind of take on the other side when as you're selling your long position in the form of a short, right? And I think this will create much friendlier funding rate for perpetual markets. It'll create overall much healthier environment, and overall just more capital efficiency, especially for long tail assets. So we're just going off on a tangent on this, like a utopia of like a DeFi settlement, but CeFi exchange world.
Okay, interesting. Let's move on to the next topic, because now, since we are talking about CeFi and DeFi, I think these days, I'm not thinking. This is the reality. The regulations are coming up more and more often, and the MiCA from the EU, there is some pressure on the SEC in the US. Miraculously, DeFi is not that, how should I say, attacked. And obviously, it is understandable. But what do you think? Will we see very tough regulations on DeFi in the future? Or if you would want to regulate DeFi, what would be the approach which you would take?
I think it would be very hard for me to speculate or put myself in the mind of the regulator when it comes to thinking about the perfect way to regulate DeFi specifically, because I think the perfect policy when it comes to regulation doesn't have much to do with kind of like the most practical policy. A lot of things comes into consideration, like the base or the constituents that you represent, and also general like other considerations like enforcements and existing infrastructure limitations, etc. That being said, I think the current like at the current state of regulation, very difficult for me to comment obviously on the EU side, just because I'm not extremely familiar with it. But in terms of the US side, I think it's becoming very painfully clear to regulators and to enforcement agencies that they have been historically pursuing in the completely wrong direction. And this means that they've been going after projects that conducted an offering. They've been going after or inquiring different types of projects when they realized very quickly, because of the FTX fallout, that what they should be looking into is to welcome as many of these projects into the states or into the country as much as possible, to enable kind of like a broader oversight and broader jurisdictional coverage. Thereby enables them to, first of all, create a very constructive regulatory environment where these offshore platforms are not just sitting in the relaxed regulation region and conducting massive amounts of potential fraud and malpractice, etc., but rather to welcome them back and give them legitimate access to the user base and the institutional capital base, without having without being so restrictive and so unclear in terms of regulation that it pushes them off. And I think it's becoming slowly very clear to regulators that this was indeed the case based on a few congressmen's comments and also the enforcement agencies' comments. And I think another really interesting point is that due to the collapse of FTX, which from a number perspective is certainly unprecedented in the U.S. financial industry for sure. It created kind of this understanding that DeFi is not necessarily the enemy here. The enemy, as a matter of fact, DeFi helped uncovering kind of like the shortcomings of FTX and all the issues surrounding with it. And actually, the blockchain technology was critical in uncovering these issues. And a lot of the regulators certainly recognize that. And I think going forward, it'll be a lot more clarity around the regulation of the overall sector, and more importantly, a lot more friendly opinion towards DeFi and having a more transparent and kind of open financial infrastructure.
Okay, thank you very much. I certainly agree with you. And yes, I was watching the hearings. I mean, some of them, and yeah, some congressmen are calling out crypto, but others do understand what is it here. And yes, I was thinking that this crash was very, very bad for crypto. However, it was kind of good for DeFi. We will need time to recover, obviously, but I'm glad that I think we see this almost the same.
And I think on top of that, I think one of the most critical points to remember is that the current issue around regulatory uncertainty mainly has to do with the lack of regulatory clarity. And so this means that any type of regulation that might come on, while in the short term might be very disruptive and might be very painful for a lot of users, in the long run, by having this clarity, it actually helps with establishing legitimacy and help with institutional onboarding and help with the long-term growth. And obviously, we hope that the regulatory action or new guidelines and the clarity that comes with it is not kind of detrimental to the space. But any type of short annoyance coming from the regulatory clarity might be kind of healthy for the long-term growth of the ecosystem in the long-term future.
Yes, I agree. We only need them to make sure that they're not trying to push it down, but to provide some clarity. So yeah, I'm very glad that you said that. Okay, let's go back to Injective and let's talk a bit about your token, because you do have a token, which is, I think it's useful for projects who want to build on your platform, on your protocol, and also for users. Could you give us some information about the tokens, for what it can be used and how it was thought?
So, the native token INJ is the token that powers the overall ecosystem. It serves as the token that powers the blockchain itself. And so beyond proof of stake, and users can delegate to validators and earn 10% plus. I think currently it's around 15 to 16% APY. I think it's a very overall interesting tokenomic, because the overall platform and exchange fees, any type of protocol fees, or any type of kind of a value or revenue coming from the blockchain itself, it all gets contributed into an auction pool, and it undergoes a weekly auction where users and market makers can bid for all the assets within that auction pool using INJ. And so the top bidder, basically their proceeds are the market maker would bid using the INJ, and the INJ, the winning bid, will take the INJ and burn it. And basically, the market makers can earn kind of like the spread between the value of the asset pool and their bid. And this overall, as the ecosystem grows, contributes to a deflationary economics. And on top of that, I think like there are a few like quite interesting kind of metrics. I think to date, the auction pool has burned around 5.6 million INJ. I'll double check on the math later.
Okay.
And 600K INJ is being burned from like just coming from like exchange fees alone. And then on top of that, any type of people who stake the native token generally gets quite a few kind of like a community airdrop, IBC airdrop, etc. And I think because of the interesting token economic, I think those who delegate and stake INJ actually gets the highest amount of airdrop compared to any type of other Cosmos-based chains. And on top of that, all the delegators get to participate in governance, vote on very critical protocol decisions, any type of on-chain parameters, etc. Participate in new markets, participate in different types of reward incentive adjustments, etc. And really contributing to the growth of the overall ecosystem. And another really interesting part is that over time, historically, Injective has been deflationary, and I think over time, like it's going to be further and further deflationary, kind of correlated with the growth of the overall ecosystem and the mind share of developers building on top of it.
Okay, lots of utilities. Thank you very much for walking us through. I have a second to last question. I would like to talk a bit about the Injective Hub, because it seems to be very interesting. Could you describe us what is it just in general?
Yeah, so Injective Hub is kind of this first stop for users trying to join the Injective ecosystem and learning for the first time. Like it's a place for transferring tokens. It's a place for bridging. So Injective Bridge is connects with multiple bridges to kind of bring over tokens and assets from different types of ecosystem all around the multi-chain universe. It also allows for staking and delegating to the validator, participation in governance, staking into insurance fund to earn yield on perpetual market insurance funds. And I think quite an interesting point that people might not necessarily realize, because from protocol level, it wasn't really widely advertised, is that a lot of these insurance funds are averaging around 5 to 20% APY. Obviously that there are inherent risks when it comes to staking into insurance fund, but over a long period of time, it has certainly been performing very, very well. And on top of that, participate in the weekly auction for auction and burn mechanisms. To date, I think there's around 11 million US dollar worth of INJ burnt. And yeah, like it's basically this kind of like first stop for anyone trying to interact with the ecosystem. And you also get to check out some of the cool dApps that are featured to get started. I think Helix, obviously, we're a little bit biased for any type of exchange, derivatives, spot needs. Helix is the best place to go to.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, and also, if you are on Injective's website, don't forget to check the Explorer, because you also have a very cool block Explorer. Okay, last question. It's if you have any big announcements in the upcoming weeks, maybe months, to which the community should look out for.
I mean, there's been a nonstop barrage of announcement, growth, deployments. Too many to count. I think we've been busy for the past few hours with the sommelier collaboration on their strategy tokens and native token. I think, a couple of days ago it was Wormhole, and then a couple of days ago it was Frontrunner, announcing their massive seed round, which is very impressive in this market. And different types of integration coming from Leap Wallet, new features. Kepler also natively integrated Injective as well. And going forward, let's just say that there's the pace is only going to be faster. There's already quite a few kind of like upcoming integrations, deployments, collaborations that are teased. But yeah, I'll leave it to the community and the listeners to find out what those upcoming collaborations are.
Well, they will be able to find out because all the links will be in the description of this podcast. Eric, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for sparing the time. It was a very fun chat, and I'm looking forward to our next one.
Yeah, cheers. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. I will see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening in. Take care.